All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that is actually the case. Tuesday Live. Today is a big day. Liz Cheney will be losing her job today. We're going to exhort all of those Wyoming voters to pour out to the polls. Just because she's sure to lose doesn't mean you shouldn't vote, just to be clear. We need to make sure that that margin is as large as possible against Hageman, actually, in the Republican primary in Wyoming today. I think there are other primaries, but I haven't been paying as much attention. Liz Cheney really has absorbed all of the oxygen in the room. Let's make sure that, just a second here, I got to make sure that all my tabs are working. I got to make sure that Rumble is actually streaming. I got to make sure the chat's working over there. Eric, Miss Piggy will lose. Yes, she will lose, to be clear. There is a 0% chance that Liz Cheney proceeds to be on the primary. She will probably lose by, I give the over and under at 25 points. I think that's a fair amount. If it's less than 20, Hageman will be shitting herself, actually, and saying, oh my God, I didn't beat her by enough of a margin. I'm a loser. I think that it'll be higher than that. I think 25 is the over-under. I think 30 is possible. I hope that hag from Alaska loses today as well. I did not know that Alaska's primaries were actually taking place. Isn't that Murkowski? Let me look that up really quickly. Murkowski that's up? Let's see here. Yeah, Wyoming is the big one. It's Alaska. Yeah, Murkowski is running again. I think in polls she's likely to proceed and win. Murkowski is expected to survive Tuesday's primary challenge, regardless of where voters fall on her criticism of Trump, due to the state's newly adopted primary system, which places all candidates for office on the same primary ballot, regardless of party affiliation. So she's probably safe. Liz Cheney, meanwhile, no, she's not going to make it through the day. She will be a lame duck not that many hours from now. Iggy the Incubus, Clank from Oklahoma, while I wait on the delivery truck so I can do my job. My white pill, the fact that all this BS is so preventable means it's also easily fixable. We've been on step 1 with the primaries. Yes, exactly. Good point. Yeah, make sure if you are in Wyoming, and, statistically a couple of you maybe, please do grab your ballot and vote for Hageman. Some of you probably don't even like all of her views. She's been Trump endorsed. She is MAGA light, I would say, more on the edge of DeSantis or something like that, but it's definitely better than Liz Cheney. It's definitely, it's not a hold your nose scenario when you're running against Liz Cheney. Holy shit. XFan 420 Bush, bro, the Trump raid is old news. Quit milking it, man. You're better than this. We have new updates with regards to the Trump raid, however, and we will be talking about them. So long as there is new news, we will talk about it. Look at my pet fly there. Isn't that wonderful? Yeah. Why don't you go find something else to eat instead of my sweat? It is 85 degrees today. It's bearable. It's better than it was. But, Murkowski is a cheater, says MAGA Hands over on Rumble. Chitabaka will win. Well, it's possible. No, it's not particularly likely. Zen Toaster. Sticks, is the stream from yesterday not on YouTube because you called that wasp a mean word? No, it has to do with, I was worried because, I ping out one of those flies, and I was worried that PETA would axe the stream, that they would flag it. Yes, it's about the wasp bit. It's still on Rumble and it's still on BitChute, so you can go and see it if you want to. I figured, YouTube has no sense of humor these days. Fuck it. Kyle Miller, Tim's guest last night proves there are people who think the honkening of 2020 can be repeated. How do we convince them? Turn out and vote in huge numbers, and don't wait to vote. Get civically active beforehand. If only a small proportion of all of the MAGA voters, and people that are just anti-com in general, do this, let's say 5%, 1 in 20, it would be an overwhelming army of people that were civically active, and it would run roughshod over the Democrats and the neocons. That's all that you need. You don't need to do any huge amount of work. Just do it in your local community. Go to one block and knock on the doors there. billet, put up a couple of billets, some stickers or whatever. Corey Alexander, I have sticks pilled a lot of friends. I appreciate that. Hunter Wadley, Miss Piggy is going to market today. Andrew Yang's tweet will not age well. Yes, we'll be talking about that. I've responded to by the same name. If I can get a first sticks like, yes, Hunter Wadley, I will. I'll go on Twitter and do the thing. Yeah, this is going to be a very, very great day because Liz Cheney is going to be a lame duck by the end of it. Not that many hours. I think, when does voting open in Wyoming? It's only 7 a.m. Eastern, and Wyoming, I think, is on, it's not Central, it's Mountain Time, I think, so it's like 5 a.m. there. So people aren't even awake in Wyoming. For the handful of night owls in Wyoming, though, please do vote for Hageman. Chris Kelly, you deserve at least this for the constant informative analysis and the laughs. Clank from the UK. Thank you very much. Ian O'Malley took a day off from a civic duty to make an album of folk covers for my dad. It was a lot of work, but better than wasting a whole day in a courtroom. Anything's better than that. Especially, imagine you're on the defendant's chair. That's worse. Iggy the Incubus. Also, shout out to Ballotpedia so that you can research the candidates in your area. An educated voter is the most dangerous weapon to the establishment. One of the most dangerous weapons. I think the M14 is probably up on that list too. Mr. Kojak, Hex has been up for a while. Yeah, apparently I have a bunch of Hex, but I can't access it. I don't know anything about that. Steady Eddie 1983. MSNBC called Liz Cheney a right-wing icon. Yeah, I don't know what they're smoking, but even the most hardened drug user wouldn't want a hit. Yeah, that's beyond spice. It's like they must be doing Ivory... that bath salt ship. Anyway, we'll get into this really quickly. First news story, Trump calls for Mar-a-Lago affidavit release, denounces FBI raid, no way to justify. President Trump unleashed his latest rant against the FBI search of his home. This is not a loaded term, by the way. This is MSN via Fox News, actually. On his social media platform late Monday night. They don't even name it because it's like, they don't want to give it any hits. Fox News is controlled opposition, and called for the immediate release of the completely unredacted affidavit that was used to justify the raid. There is no way to justify the unannounced raid of Mar-a-Lago, the former president wrote on Truth Social. They mention it in the next sentence. The home of the 45th president of the United States, who got more votes by far than any sitting president in the history of our country. Fact check, of course, that is true. Trump also references gun-toting FBI agents and the Department of Justice in his post. But in the interest of transparency, I call for the immediate release of the completely unredacted affidavit pertaining to this horrible and shocking break-in. The business and mogul continued. Also, the judge on this case should recuse. Yeah, I mean, by law, the judge should recuse. This is a politically motivated judge who has a stick up his ass. But then again, Merrick Garland should recuse too, and that's clearly not going to happen. Beyond that, what would be the problem if the DOJ and FBI have done nothing wrong? If they have such an ironclad case, and all the leftoids are telling me, well, they must have had a mountain of evidence if they conducted a raid on a former sitting president. Why not release the affidavit? What did it claim? Was it specific to any particular material? Who was it from? You can even redact the name on the affidavit. Just release the actual sworn statement itself and put people's minds to ease by telling us, yeah, there's actually, an established legitimate reason for the raid. But they're not going to do that. They're going to hide behind a non-existent precedent and say that they can't do that for legal reasons. And that's because they don't have any evidence. The affidavit was probably, hey, Trump has classified material in boxes in this room. You should go and get them. That's probably basically what the affidavit says. ZBMan100, Dems say inflation bill helps. Lying or insane? They're lying with that. It's basically the IRS expansion bill and some funny money for their corporate donors who do EVs. My channel G115. Your live stream for Monday is gone. What happened? I had a little bit of a dust up with a yellow jacket and it didn't go too well, so I had to remove the stream. It's still on Rumble and on BitChute if you would like to see it. Luka Pilipovic, I get what you were saying about overwhelming the honking, but at some point people get tired of fighting with a handicap. Can the honking just stop? No, the camp is eternal. It will never stop. So you have to keep fighting. Sorry about that. Elitu, have you listened to Rucka Rucka Ali? I've definitely heard of it, but I haven't actually heard anything of that. Brian Gibson. Sticks, what do you think Trump will do regarding investigating the Bidens, Clintons, etc. versus what do you think he should do? At this point, he could retaliate, when he probably gets back into office in 24. Again, though, it's time to put the genie back in the bottle and refuse to weaponize these agencies. It's time rather to disband or defang them. That's the answer. It's the libertarian answer, and it happens to be the right one. Otherwise, this will continue forever, and the liberals will wield that power from time to time. That's what we're seeing now. 86ED, I was wondering what your thoughts are about treating the cartels as terrorist organizations. I feel as though it would probably behoove the U.S. to stabilize our own hemisphere. Canada is next. No, I think that we should end the drug war, and then we should just slaughter the cartels. Just slaughter them, just gun them down, bring an attack helicopter overhead, fire some missiles into their coke bins or whatever. But they're not going to do that because they want the prison pipeline to keep functioning. I am right. Razor Sticks, what do you mean with missing link media? Missing link media is early .com era media. It's not entirely independent and typically has a good social media footprint, but it's not newsprint and it's not TV or radio from yesteryear. So it's internet era, but it's not independent. That's basically what I mean. Kalash Nikov. If Joe Biden decided to pardon the January 6ers, would the Democrats be outraged or sympathetic of the decision? They would probably say how wonderful and how merciful Joe Biden was, and they would praise him for it, which shows you their cognitive dissonance. Meshikiari Roos, doesn't the warrant he released already tell more? Yeah, Trump already released the warrant. So did the DOJ. But what we need is the signed affidavit. The affidavit is why the warrant was actually released in the first place, why it was issued. We need to see what specifically was told to the FBI, to the DOJ, why they actually raided the property of someone who was already cooperating with them. Supposedly, this means it's extra damning. It should be, you should have a massive pile of evidence. Well, let's see it. What does the DOJ actually have? But they're not going to do that. Let's see here, just a sec. Exploitalist. Looks like your most interesting video today might be on EVs. It was absolutely hilarious to hear that the new EV tax credit was useless for most EVs. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, with inflation, that was predictable. Kathleen Hogan Manuel, thanks for providing real news with rational commentary. You're very welcome. Much, much more to come. So yeah, Trump is challenging them to release the affidavit. They probably won't. They should. If they have nothing to hide, they have nothing to fear, right? We keep hearing that in the realm of Trump land. Now they're trying to get him to release the security footage of the raid, actually, which is hilarious. They said Swalwell did that. He was like, well, if Trump was innocent, he'd release the warrant. And then he releases the warrant. Now he says, well, if Trump is innocent, he'll release the security footage. I have a feeling that his tweet won't age well because he might very well do so. And that'll be hilarious. If the DOJ and FBI are innocent, they'll release the fucking affidavit. Trump will do whatever he can to help the country after FBI raid. Temperature has to be brought down. Trump said his representatives reached out to the DOJ to offer help amid outrage over the FBI search of Mar-a-Lago. So here we see a more conciliatory Trump. And when Trump acts conciliatory, unless it's just for personal gain, which is what 99.9% of liberals will cast this as being, it's probably because there's a fucking problem. Former President Trump said he will do whatever he can to help the country after the FBI raid of the Mar-a-Lago home last week, telling Fox News Digital that the temperature has to be brought down while stressing that the American people are not going to stand for another scam. That seems to be true based on polling. We'll be getting into some of that later. In an exclusive interview with Fox News Digital Monday morning, by the way, he should shut out Fox News because they're backstabbing him. His first since the raid, Trump said he had his representatives reach out to the DOJ to offer them help amid outrage over the FBI's unprecedented raid on his private residence last week, in which agents seized classified records including some marked top secret. Trump is disputing the classification of those records, saying they have been declassified. And again, all he had to do was discuss them in a general sense with literally anyone under the sun, and they're effectively declassified. It's up to the DOJ to prove that that didn't happen if he claims it did. The country is in a very dangerous position. There is tremendous anger like I've never seen before over all the scams and this new one, years of scams and witch hunts, and now this, Trump said. If there is anything we can do to help, I and my people would certainly be willing to do that. So Trump is literally reaching out to the people that are trying to persecute him to offer help. Just to be clear, it's not Trump who's being the aggressor at this point in this particular matchup. It is the FBI and the DOJ. And that's not surprising. These people have been doing this for a very long time. Look at the J. Edgar Hoover era. Trump pointing that out the other day. He's correct. What the hell is wrong about it? The FBI has been involved in human rights violations and the violations of the rights of the accused since inception for a very, very long period of time, longer than anyone alive today almost can remember. We had a time before the FBI. We seemed to be prosperous and organized, and crime was actually not that big of a problem. So why do we need them, is my question. What actual purpose do they serve? Sparky, Trump refused to drop his civil RICO case after bragging he had evidence against the FBI and Hillary et al. In that case, next morning was the raid. FBI was looking for that evidence to destroy it. Well, it would have been, copied, so that wouldn't have worked. I think Trump has at least one ace under his sleeve. Darun Albain, George Taki Sulu, you mean Takei, said he knew he was gay at an early age, and at 14 his first lover was an over 30 man, so he was raped. Yeah, it seems like it, yeah. There was statutory rape involved with that case. Apparently he doesn't have any problem with this and doesn't see it as an issue. I don't know. At least there's no evidence that he ever, did anything with kids or anything, so, I mean, that's a good thing. And he is occasionally funny, but he's got massive Trump derangement syndrome. Deep State Wars. Do you think Trump can beat the fortifiers? Yeah, and I think that he's likely to do so. Over on Rumble, we have Joker 1. I think corporatist war pig Princess Elizabeth will lose by only 12%. The Dems will cross over and vote just to screw Trump. There aren't enough Democrats in the state. Their turnout would have to be 100%, and you'd have to have a planetary alignment and 3 comets in the sky. I explained it in order for her to win. Number one, you have to have virtually every Democrat in the state eligible to vote. Take a GOP ballot and vote. The turnout needs to be near 100. Secondly, you have to either have extremely low turnout for Hageman, or you have to have the polls be systemically wrong beyond the margin of error. The likelihood of this is effectively zero. Liz Cheney will be losing her job. She will be a lame duck at the end of the day. And I can't wait. I'm going to be chuckling about it all day. We'll probably get a call on that race within the first 10 minutes of early results being available. We're not going to have to wait for long. Voting begins 10 minutes later. They call the race for Liz Cheney. By the way, I think, oh, never mind. I just temporarily knocked out my my mouse somehow. I don't know what the fuck happened. The Affadavit. I'm in the toolbox. The drill bits are hiding me. Ink Fairy Games. Liz Cheney isn't losing today. She's lost as soon as she bit the hands of her constituents. Yeah, that's really the problem. She ignored her job. She even called a significant proportion of the people that voted for her crazies. She keeps getting astroturfed. We'll be covering that later about, Liz Cheney 2024. Oh boy, wouldn't that be fun? Dude, I'd rather staple my scrotum to a piece of wood than vote for Liz Cheney for any office. She's a Cheney. She's Dick Cheney's daughter. You don't need to say anything more. That's enough to disqualify her from politics. Why the fuck did these morons vote for her in the first place? Ryan Kulros, how are the cats? Just lost mine of 10 years. My condolences. Our cats, our fine. They had mushy food today for the first time in quite a few days because of the heat wave. They had lamb with carrot, and they shoveled it down. It's basically they ate it all. Hunter Wadley, in your earlier video, you said Biden should have known. The only thing Biden knows is what a small child is. I've seen things from my fucking namesake's laptop. If they're real, life in prison at minimum. Yeah, I don't think that there's anything illicit other than the quid pro Joe sort of stuff that was there. A lot of the other stuff seems to be shoops, but I'm not 100% sure. Ryan H. Dave Smith said on Twitter he wants a debate. I have agreed to that, by the way, and said he was open when suggested debating you on Trump. Fans of both of you, any chance of it? Yeah, 100% chance. I've agreed to it, and I'm already coordinating on that. It's a matter of making sure that we have the right day and the right time. Michael Cricklow. FBI seized Trump's passport. Are charges coming? That is actually fake news. They did not seize his passport. They were processing them as part of the investigation. So he should be getting those back. And a couple of them were expired. So it appears that that particular story was not actually accurate. Luka Pilipovic, don't worry, Liz. You can always start an OnlyFans. Yes, I think that she'll do that with Amber Heard, actually. It'd probably be highly paid. They could make a lot of money. And, money is the only thing that drives these people. Sepphoris, losing more and more respect for Mr. Zulu by the second. Ink Fairy Games, Liz Cheney, help, I've set myself on fire. People with the torches, vote for me. Liz Cheney to the Democrats, lol. Yeah, she doesn't understand her constituency. Trig1211, who's the most likely Dem candidate for 2024? Kamala Harris. Joe Biden, I don't think runs. She's got the technical incumbency and is the most likely, therefore, to prevail in a primary battle. Gavin Newsom would be up there. Pete Buttigieg, a few others. Jared Stevens, who is the person who disagrees with you that you respect most? All the best from Tokyo. Razor Fist, he doesn't know anything about food, and he's wrong on steaks and pizza and chili and a million other things, but still respect him. Stephen Vaughn. Sticks, did you watch Timcast yesterday? His rant about the 2020 election was embarrassing. No, I actually didn't watch him yesterday. Garrett Thomas, hi from Maine. Considering the totally legit 2020 election, how can we be sure 2024 won't be a repeat? Sure, this gets asked a lot. That's because the states run the elections, and most of them have defortified the situation. You're about to see that in the midterms. Don't worry too much. Just get out there, knock on doors, bill it, put up stickers, and vote. Speak out. Use your First Amendment rights. On Rumble, Metal Raider 2181, you called them morons. Now they'll vote for Miss Piggy out of spite. Yeah, all 10 of them. And then we got Oyinori. Reddit is convinced that Liz Cheney will run as an independent in the 24 presidential election and garner enough neocon voter support to prevent Trump from winning purple states. Thoughts? I'll give you my thoughts in a moment because we do have to talk about Liz Cheney. Julia T. Can you imagine the memes we could make of the FBI rummaging through Melanie's unmentionables, Melania's? Release the tape. Yeah, I'd love to see that. Imagine them rifling through her underwear and then taking a few pieces as potentially classified undergarments. Attila Hong, Scott Morrison, ex-Australian PM, appointed himself to 5 ministerial portfolios while PM without telling the other PMs. Are we a banana republic? In Australia? Yeah, you've been one for a long time. Mike Oxlittle. It's rumored that a poke by a certain Yellow Jackets can spread monkeypox. Oh, shit. Tom McMorrow. Scott Adams yesterday had an excellent 10-minute whiteboard breakdown of Dem hoax math on YouTube. Story plus legal action plus amplify, then debunked, but not for the Dems. Yeah, it's astroturfing is a simpler way to put it. Ink Fairy Games. Dem incumbent is a ham sandwich, more competent. Hunter Wadley. Tim was logical and made sense. Inky. Hi, Sticks. I have nothing clever to say. Just take my money. Damn it. Thank you. I'll buy more lamb chops, perhaps. Mr. Sandvich. New drinking game. Take a shot each time Tim Pool says Civil War. Yeah, see, that's one of the main things I disagree with him on. I don't think a civil war is imminent. Nick Meischer. Imagine Trump in prison walking the yard with 2 Secret Service agents with submachine guns and a big old MAGA tattoo on his stomach with a durag on his head, uniting all the prison gangs. Yeah, I mean, you can't put an ex-president in prison. You have to have Secret Service around them 24/7. It wouldn't work. Logistically speaking, the most you could do is house arrest. Oh my God, you have to sit in the Mar-a-Lago, this, what is it, 200-room fucking mansion or something. Well, he's doing that anyway. It's not going to happen. Wyoming GOP voters are on the brink of ousting Liz Cheney for her outspoken criticism of Donald Trump. This is partially true. from the conversation. Again, links in the description, you can follow along. That's not the entire reason why she's being ousted. Liz Cheney's being ousted for ignoring her constituents and calling them crazy, which she literally did. She mentioned this many months ago. The January 6th commission starts. She casts an impeachment vote, and she gets roundly panned for it. And her approval plummets from, I think it was in the mid-50s. It was decent to in the 20s, basically. And she called people who opposed her crazies. She literally used that term. It was basically deplorables 2.0. That's why you're being fucking forced out. It's not because you're critical of Donald Trump. It's because you ignored the wishes of your constituents. That's the only reason. And yes, she will be losing her job later. Make sure if you're in Wyoming, go vote. Vote for Hageman. If you know someone who's in Wyoming, wake them up right now, because I know it's early in the morning, but they don't need too much sleep to be able to go and fill out a piece of paper. Get them to the polls. The larger the margin by which Liz Cheney loses, the better. And there may not be that many people voting there. This is a primary in an extremely rural state. If I can get 10 fucking clankers to actually get out of bed and cast a piece of paper, it makes a demonstrable difference in the end results because of the rural nature of the Wyoming population. She doesn't need to just lose. She needs to be spanked. She needs to be reprimanded and corrected and brought to heel, as another politician once said. Sparky, use search terms Trump civil RICO case for info. Big tech inhibits sharing links. FBI may have acted on their own to punish Trump for not dropping the case and retroactively got Garland's blessing. It's definitely retaliatory. We just don't know exactly what the retaliation is for. Virginia Derzerian, good. Thumbs up. Thank you. The Sacred Order of Knightly Valor will camel toe hairless run in 2024. If Biden doesn't, probably, which should scare people. I mean, I don't think that she can win in a general, but the fact that she would even run should terrify people. By the way, we're at near 20 Biden loser units already. We're not even half an hour in. Testing 2741. Liz Cheney's net worth increased 600% in office. Yeah, that's the power of China, who controls her completely. And now we've got another Newsweek putting this out. Liz Cheney's chances of becoming GOP's presidential candidate in 2024. As Representative Liz Cheney of Wyoming fights to maintain her House seat, she hasn't even campaigned, by the way, much of a fight. Questions have begun to arise concerning whether she will run as the Republicans' primary 2024 presidential election candidate. Polls to determine the Wyoming seat are set to open on Tuesday, August 16th. That is today. And Cheney is set to battle GOP opponent Harriet Hageman. There is no battle. She has not made one campaign stop in the state. The only campaigning she's done is to put out ads begging Democrats to vote for her because none of the Republicans will. Hageman, who has been endorsed by former President Donald Trump, has a significant lead in the Wyoming primary, and polls are predicting a loss for Cheney. I don't even need to predict it. I'm going to tell you that Hageman will win. Now it's just a matter of how much she wins by. And speaking about this possibility, running for president in July, that was a while ago, Cheney said she was focused first on the primary that she has not yet campaigned in and has now effectively abandoned. I haven't made my decision about that yet. I'm obviously very focused on my re-election. I'm very focused on the January 6th committee. One of these two statements, by the way, is not true. I'm very focused on my obligations to do the job that I have now, she said during an interview on ABC News this week. Oh, God. And then she rants and rants about defending democracy and shit. The fact is this. Liz Cheney has a 0% chance of being president. She has a 0% chance of prevailing today. She will lose to Hageman by double digits. It's just a matter of the margin. I'm hoping that clankers get out there. Fucking get someone loaded if you have to get them to the polls. Fucking smoke them out. Do whatever you need to do. Get them to the goddamn polls. Defeat Liz Cheney. I want it to be at least 20 points. That's the minimum. If it's not by at least 20 points, I'll end the day disappointed and say, oh, well, that was kind of a wash. She lost, but, she actually kind of sort of saves face. No, I want her to lose by 30. If she could lose by 40 points, it would be great. It's, by the way, not technically outside of the realm of possibility. So get out and vote. It's a good idea. Let's punish her for her stupidity. Not for criticism of Trump. Who cares? She can do that if she wants. She abandoned the people of her state. Completely abandoned them. She ignores it. She calls them crazies. Why would anyone want to vote for her? Even if you hate Hageman, you hate Trump or something. Liz Cheney called you nuts. Doesn't that chap your ass at least a little bit? Dr. Lick, the Dems party logo should change from a donkey to a rat, given the vast majority of their votes come from the big cities of America. No, I think it should change to the hammer and sickle, because that seems to be who they serve. Grevin Share, Civil War will only happen when the Big Macs stop flowing and the food stamps can only buy wheat flour. Sparky, Adam Krigler had a good show several days ago on the Trump Civil RICO case and raid connection. Disco Stew, did you name your daughter Styx Hexen Debbie? BW, I have a hard time reading polls and more leftoids are crowing about polls favoring Dems. Are we still good? Also, speaking of AstroTurf, did you see Beta O'Dort call someone a motherfucker? Yeah, I covered that this morning. It was pathetic and it hasn't moved the polls at all. Yes, I have seen the polls that are being AstroTurfed and carefully cherry-picked, by the way, saying the Democrats are improving their position in the wake of the inflation bill. No, they're not. They've been fucking stagnant. What the hell are you talking about? Branch Covidian 19. If voting in Alaska today, be sure to include the most popular Democrat in your rankings. It will take the wind out of Murkowski's sails in the general election. Yeah. I don't know. I guess they went with ranked choice there finally. Friendly Neighborhood Sawyer. Hey, Sticks, what is a Biden loser unit? Love from Australia. It is 300 viewers at the same time. That's about how many people pay attention to a Biden rally. Battle Elf, Kate Bollinger is the best. Deep State Wars. Have you thought about Clanker Awards, including the rubbery potato for derision? Yeah, we could do an awards show, kind of like the Raspberry Awards or something. That'd be funny. Maxwell Schulz. I can already see the media labeling Cheney's defeat as a more peaceful night of the long knives. Yeah, I mean, they're going to go with the hyperbole. Oh my God, the GOP is even more terrible now. Sexist and racist and homophobic because Liz Cheney was kicked out. Mr. Sandwich. Do you have any plans to go on Lotus Eaters, i.e. Sargon's new podcast? Only across the water and they have a lot of interesting guests on. Yeah, I'd be game anytime. They just have to contact me. In fact, I think they had actually at one point, but that was, I think, shortly after my child was born, so I didn't have the time. Yeah, they can get back to me on Twitter anytime. I'll go on the Lotus Eaters. Andy Appleseed, with unverified mail-in ballots, how can we take voting serious? Thanks for chilling this morning. In most states, that's not a problem, so I wouldn't worry too much. I am right. What do you have against gay Yellow Jackets? I don't. Yellow Jackets are actually pretty cool, which is why I let it land on my hand. You may hear some shrieking in the background at the moment. Cerno, at least if they tried to Epstein Trump, they'd get turned to Swiss cheese by the Secret Service. Skyward Pictures. I think Trump took documents that are worth something, containing compromising info on people. He therefore still has that knowledge, regardless of the underlying documents, which he may have copied. It's entirely possible. I killed Fritz. Keep up the good work, my friend. Thank you. Yeah, the trees are still fucking, so I'm still a little bit hoarse today. Opinion from Politico. 1 year later, life under Taliban rule is brutal. Yeah, the religious zealots are struggling to govern the country and rights are being rolled back. Yeah, oh, you mean the Taliban took over your country and all of a sudden the rights of people who are female or gay or whatever went out the window? Nobody ever could have seen this coming. I would like to lay entirely the blame for that on Joe Biden, and that's because of this. Donald Trump engineered a withdrawal from Afghanistan. It's something that we did need to do. We needed to get out of there because there's no point to us being there. The United States and coalition forces, that is. But we should have stuck to the original timeline. I tried to explain to people, if you look at anything about Central Asian cultures, going back on your word when you've already struck the agreement is the worst thing that you can do. Being disingenuous, saying, okay, I'm going to be there on May 5th, and then you show up on May 10th. That is not a good idea in those cultures. It's considered number one, disrespectful, and number two, fucking pathetic. Joe Biden doesn't understand this because he never did business in any of these countries. He stayed in his lily white gated Delaware community for his entire life. He has no life skills whatsoever. He never made a job that didn't involve taxpayer money. And that's why he failed and why Trump prevailed. And it's been that way in Korea as well, just to be clear. So that's being wrecked at the moment as well. Donald Trump knew better. He put a set-in date, and it was ignored. They kicked it back. Meanwhile, Joe Biden was literally calling the leader of Afghanistan, acknowledging that the situation was all fucked up, but begging him, pleading with him on bended knee to portray it as though it wasn't all fucked up and they could actually hold out against a potential advance in order to keep the calm. Because we got to get some shit out of the country. And then they never got the shit out of the country. They left it all behind, including a bunch of U.S. soldiers, U.S. civilians, U.S. contractors, U.S. partners, and of course, U.S. military equipment. How lovely. So yeah, as we have just passed the first year anniversary of the ruination of Afghanistan, remember, Joe Biden is uniquely and largely singularly responsible for that. Devin Frazier, did you ever watch 2000 Mules? If not, check it out. Haven't actually gotten a chance to see it yet. E. Lombard, thanks for all you do, Sticks. Can't wait until your midterm live. Clank. Yes, I still got to get back to Sleazy, actually, with a test stream. Michael Ferguson, why does Brian Kemp want to give Stacey Abrams his job so bad? Do you think Herschel Walker pulls it off, or does Warnock stay? I think Stacey Abrams loses, but Warnock is likely to win. I think in each case, it's about an 80-20 proposition. So that means the Georgia governor will be Republican. Warnock, however, as incumbent, he has a slight advantage anyway. Walker's not as great a potential matchup. I think he loses. Sparky. Top secret documents premise is to cover real reason for the raid, which was to see what evidence Trump had for his civil RICO case. Knowing what Trump has is valuable to the FBI despite possible copies. The problem with that is that if Trump had that material, he would have copied it, of course. And it would be, of course, the lawyers would have copies as well. I don't think that's the reason. I think they're holding this over the head of the midterms more than anything else. Testing 2741. I wasn't a warmer, kinder Taliban via puddin' brain. Andrew Sobel, what was the most shocking part of the Trump raid for you? The fact that it even took part and these people actually are crazy enough to go through with it. The entire thing's nuts. Ozzy's Robots. Despite numerous election wins by MAGA candidates and repudiations of the Uniparty, the establishment seems hell-bent on destroying any vestige of populism on both sides. Will they succeed? P.S. Can you throw me a shout-out? I'll even put you on screen. There's Ozzy's Robots there, and you can subscribe to him. So a little bit of a shout-out there. They will not succeed in stopping populism. It's too popular. Not without good reason. Outas85, happy end of Liz Cheney's Congressional Career Day. Yes, we will be celebrating later, of course. Butter a war, but what is a woman? I don't know. I don't know who to ask about that these days. Can't be a politician. Now, next story. This is by Illinois. Are Democrats in trouble in the suburbs? Well, the short answer, of course, is yes. Suburban voters are very, very fickle, by the way. They're NIMBYs and stuff. And so when the Democrats propose more taxes and more rebates for EVs that the suburbanites are not actually going to afford, it rubs them the wrong way. They want lots of solar panels, but not in their backyard. They want more windmills, but they don't want to have to see them themselves. Maybe way off in the distance in a cornfield somewhere where the farmer has to mow around it. That's perfectly fine, but don't you dare put it in the suburban area. Yes, the Democrats are in trouble. A rising proportion of the suburbanites in the southern parts of the country, Texas, etc., are Hispanic. Well, what are Hispanic voters doing right now? They're voting with their wallets and they're abandoning the Democratic Party at historic levels. It'll be very, very interesting, by the way, I think. Probably the biggest interest in the days following the midterms will be looking at the demographics of the voter base in some of those states, especially Texas, Arizona, New Mexico. It's going to be a ball. I'm going to be rolling around laughing and looking at statistics, something that most of you would never want to do. Look at all these numbers. Ha, ha, ha. Yes. It's going to be great for me, boring for everyone else. The Sacred Order of Knightly Valor. Any thoughts on Cthulhu? Ia Cthulhu Fatagan would be my thoughts on that one. There are multiple ways, by the way, to pronounce that. So before anyone jumps down my throat. May Dagon take your soul down to hell. Rob S. Clank. Thank you. To Human Centipede. Hey, Sticks. Thanks for sharing my shop a few weeks ago, but thought you'd like to know that I don't think you put the link in the description of that live stream because I don't see it and haven't sold anything. Or my shop sucks. Lol. I thought that I did. Yeah. I'll look into it. My apologies if I actually forgot to do so. Leave it to me to do something like that. Testing 2741. Aren't Rust Belt states too fortified, though? Only a few of them at this point. A lot of them have defortified. Arizona partially, Virginia partially, Pennsylvania partially, Ohio and a few others. Florida definitely did, so that's off the table for honking. Adherent of Lady Columbia. Been cutting back political content since so much of it is the same verbatim after years, now focusing on personal growth and averaging working 50 to 60 hours a week. You are my everyday news, though. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, Jesus, working 60 hours a week doesn't sound fun, though. Gary Jean, do you think the lack of political experience of Republican Senate candidates could hurt them in the general elections? Yeah, but who cares? I mean, if it's neocon versus Democrat, it doesn't matter who wins, so... It's better to have a 10% chance of winning with someone who's actually worth winning with than to have a 50-50 chance with someone where it's like, who gives a shit, just flip a coin. Michael Ferguson, have you seen the attack ads Gavin Newsom has been running against DeSantis in Florida? Do you think Newsom is gearing up for a presidential run? I think that they're trying everything that they can to try to get rid of DeSantis. I think they do fear him to an extent, more as governor than as a presidential candidate. As far as Gavin Newsom, he might be crazy enough to try to run. That'd be funny. So yeah, the short answer is that yes, the Democrats are in trouble in the suburbs. Long story short mode. Don D6 Sticks governs. The Tap Phoenix. Been watching you since you stopped being a Satanist. Figured I owed you at least $5 for the diaper fund. Well, thank you very much. I haven't been involved with that in more than 10 years now. How Democrats could actually come out on top in the midterms by MSNBC. For all of its faults, the party really has evolved over the last decade. Evolution has worked in reverse in the case of the Democratic Party. You had a brief moment in the sun where you were the youth party, you were the party of tech, of social media, and then you lost it all, and you spilled all your spaghetti when it came to Trump, and now the rest is history. For most of 2022, Democrats have been sinking ever deeper into a pit of despair. President Joe Biden's approval ratings, driven by the worst inflation in 20 years, shit, they even admitted it here, were approaching those of the late Bush administration. They were worse, actually, just to be clear. The party's agenda was apparently dead in the Senate, and Republican gerrymandering had given the GOP a substantial handicap in House elections. Election nerds took it for granted that Democrats would lose the House and probably the Senate too, along with control of vital swing state governments in November. This article proposes a false premise. No reasonable person thought it was a down pat sort of lock on the GOP taking the Senate. It's been 50-50 as I've analyzed now for months and months. You will lose at the state level, and you will lose the House of Representatives. The Democrats will not retain them. Nancy Pelosi will be out of her job as Speaker. That will be funny. Numerous states probably will move to the right. You may or may not retain the Senate. It's still, I think personally, it's still 50-50. There are a number of seats that appear to be moving towards the Dems. There are also some moving towards the Republicans. I'm not even going to bother to estimate what's going to happen in the Senate because really, if you look at the polls for some of these toss-up Senate races, a 2-point swing, which is well within the margin of error, even in the aggregate, can throw 3 or 4 of them in one direction or the other. I can't tell you exactly which direction that will be in, if any. With the House, though, you're looking at a wash for the Democrats, and certainly on the state level. This is a coat post. This is effectively them trying to astroturf the Democrats out of their despair, which they own up to in the first couple sentences of the very article. And then they're talking about Donald Trump being in deep legal trouble because of the search warrant at Mar-a-Lago. What legal trouble? They're not even alleging a crime. There's no charge. They didn't even name an individual, by the way, to be clear, on the search warrant. I mean, we infer that, of course, Trump is at the center of the investigation, but his name's not on the warrant now, is it? It's only on the property contract because he happens to own the property. To Human Centipede, it's all good, and the reason why I'm barely mentioning it because I haven't had the money for Superchats. Let me know if you need the link again. Now I'll go back through and I'll get that and I'll check it out. My apologies. Sketch Therapy, I like how you describe Satanism and its obvious flaws. Yeah, quite a few of them. George Gabriel, where's yesterday's live? It's no longer on YouTube. It is on Rumble and BitChute. I said something unkind to a yellow jacket, and the rest was history. Jon Snow, hey Sticks, are you familiar with Michael Zarion's work? Also, are you into astrology? Well done on all the viewers. I think I've heard the name, but I'm not familiar with the work, and I enjoy astrology in a topical sense, but not in the more advanced sense. I don't believe in it in the sense of like, rising signs and all that shit. I don't read horoscopes and stuff. Testing 2741. Washington and Mississippi are still fortified, in my opinion. Dropbox and mails. Yeah, oh, you mean Michigan, actually. Washington State has gone blue, so nobody cares about that. As far as Michigan, it does actually matter. We'll see what happens with that. Wisconsin has been defortified by order of their state Supreme Court. Adherent of Lady Columbia, when will you admit that you secretly are the love child of Velma and Shaggy, dude? It makes too much sense. Lol. I can see that. Testing 2741. Wisconsin, not Washington, fortified. Sorry. No, Wisconsin has been defortified, if I remember correctly. I could be getting the states mixed up. Sketch Therapy. I also like your stance against blackpilling. It's very important not to lose hope. The Patriot Chiro. Dara, love you. Not sure why you trust vaccines. I can't read probably the rest of this comment. Vaccines are safe and effective. I just happen to believe they should not be mandatory. And there's a certain vaccine that I won't name on a YouTube live broadcast that I refuse to get, never would, and consider to be bullshit. I won't tell you which one, though. It was clearly one developed in the Soviet Union 40 years ago or something. You know what I'm talking about. We'll play some weasel words here with YouTube's algorithms. But no, I don't, my apologies, but I literally can't read the rest of that without probably getting banned. Aaron C., if the Dems lose the House, does that stop basically all their policies from going through? It stops any hope of reconciliation. It stops them from rubber stamping their budgets. And it potentially defunds numerous federal bureaus as long as the Republicans can hold their ground. Cat Slave. As a Brit, I can't wait to see Biden gone. Go team. Yeah, first we gotta get rid of Liz Cheney. Heathen Dominion, can I send you my New Hampshire black metal album? Yeah, sometime. That'd be fine. I don't have a P.O. box set up here, though. George Gabriel, I heard that F word, and I was sure that would get you into trouble. Lol. I actually doubted it, but then I took it down anyway, because I'm like, whatever. It doesn't really matter. Skyclad Wanderer, make me a mod so I can do nothing with my power. I will never have mods on my chat. I don't like the idea that it even exists as a feature. Rob S., when are you going to be guest on Timcast? When I'm back in the United States and have time. He only does in person. JS, hi Sticks. Do you think the deep state sent FBI to Mar-a-Lago because Trump declassified and took with him the Russia collusion docs, and since they point directly at Obama, Clinton, etc., they got scared and went to recover them? It is possible. That possibility does exist. Sparky, Everglades tomatoes growth and production stays ahead of pest, disease, and aren't phased by heat or humidity. Production outpaces all tomatoes by weight despite their small cherry size. I recommend. I'll stick with pure heirloom varieties. Greasus Crust. I live in Washington State. We hate the Dems, but King County, where Seattle is, screws our votes 98% of the time. Look into it deeper. Yeah, I'm aware that Seattle fucks your state in the ass, and my apologies, because it does. I mean, if it weren't for that, if it were like a swing state with maybe a libertarian bent, it'd be on near the top of my list for places to move to. Great climate, nice and rainy, dark, lots of pine trees, lots of mushrooms. And it looks like a medieval forest. Dark World XL, have you ever read Virus Mania? Talks about honk. No, I have not. Sephorus, as a Washington resident, I wish our elections were defortified. Then knock on doors, put up stickers. Catman FS, the I Won't Back Down character behind you is great. Where did you get it? Clank. That is from, it's 3D printed, actually. No, wrong side. Fucking Jesus Christ. It's from G-Sticks. You can see on the back there. G-Sticks, Anthony Gray, Jefferson, Kentucky. And I think probably does stuff for other people too. I know he's done a bunch of them for different people. I don't know if he takes orders. But I think it's pretty cool. I've got two others, actually, but they're in Rutland. Just a second here. We got another news story here. Yeah. So, the Democrats are astroturfing the idea that the Democrats are doing all right. Next, we've got Texas gubernatorial race, Abbott versus O'Rourke. Beta O'Rourke, as most of you know him by, or Robert Francis, actually, keeps claiming that he's going to win the race, and you should give him money because of this to help him win against evil Greg Abbott. The problem is that he's about 10 points behind in the latest poll, and that was DMN, if I remember correctly. And if you look at all of the polls, there has not been one poll in which Beto's ahead. In virtually all of them, Abbott is at least 5 points ahead. The aggregated total is 6.8 points. I would favor Greg Abbott to win with roughly an 8-point advantage over Beto O'Rourke, which is historically normal for a gubernatorial race between the Republicans and the Democrats in Texas. This shows several things. Number one, despite all that's happened over the last month, there's no velocity in Beto O'Rourke's favor. That's number one. Number two, at least in this race, and we can extrapolate somewhat, among those voters, there's no movement in the Democrats' favor. And number three, people don't give a shit about Beto O'Rourke and his motherfucker comment. He tried to astroturf that the other day, and it was really, really funny. Trying to look tough, I guess, by calling someone a motherfucker because they were chuckling at, can't remember exactly what it was. And the astroturfing is very much real. Again, though, take a look at the fucking polls. And that poll, again, it's from August. It's not ancient history. If you look at all the recent polls, Abbott's well ahead. The least that he was ahead by in recent polling, unless you want to go all the way back to March where a Lyceum poll had him ahead by 2, is +5 in Quinnipiac. And that was in the middle of June. Since then, +8, that was the end of June, CBS. End of June, +6 in UT, Texas Tribune. He was +5 in University of Houston. That was at the end of June and early July. And then early August, +10. If anything, if you use a linear plot, technically speaking, Greg Abbott has the trajectory. Supposedly, the Democrats are surging at the 11th hour, and everything's going right for them because abortion and Uvalde and stuff. It doesn't seem to have helped Beto. Could it be the fact that he's a midlife crisis actor? I think so. Mitch James, you think the CCP will collapse sometime soon? If by soon you mean in the next decade, yes, I believe so. If by soon you mean in this year, I don't know. But yes, they will. Sparky, Everglades tomatoes are wild tomatoes, non-GMO. Oh, goody then. I'll have to take a look at them. Sketch therapy, this is for your stance on mods. It's magnificent. I wish more people would adopt it. Yeah, I never understood the idea. It's like, I want the chat to be as edgy as possible, preferably. Tom McMorrow, per Daily Mail, U.S. this AM, passports were seized. Yes, they were seized in the sense that they took them, some of them being expired. However, they're simply being processed and will presumably be returned in the next couple of days. That's at least what I was told. Dylan Blyler, and the debate. Make Sticks and Razorfist go on Timcast together. We've never seen them in the same room. But we will be on the same live stream for the midterms. We were in the last midterms. People forget that. Uncultured barbarian Beto the carpetbagger went to a state where guns are important to many and he demonizes them. Bold strategy. Cotton, let's see if it works for him. Yeah, it's not going to work for Beto. He will lose. Just to be clear, there's maybe a 1% chance of a Beto victory. He's got it better than Liz Cheney does in the next 24 hours at least. Testing 2741. Where does Beto have his money and support from and why? He got pumped full of electoral steroids when he ran against Ted Cruz because the Democrats thought they could win. They haven't been doing that quite as much in this race because I think that most of them, if they're not completely out there, they realize he's going to lose. I've been telling people since day one. Some people claimed up and down, oh my God, Beto's actually going to do it. There's a real risk here. A fortification that never existed in Texas. I kept trying to confirm to them that that's not going to happen. They wouldn't listen to me. Adherent of Lady Columbia, is there any occult ideas pertaining to imagining a world so well and detailed that it becomes integrated into your next life? For example, Tolkien creates his books, ends up reincarnated into Lord of the Rings. It's been touched upon, the idea of visualizing things and willing it into existence as a concept within the occult. Yeah, I don't think there's any book on the subject specifically, but it is touched on in quite a few books that mention dream interpretation, the psychic arts, and mysticism in a more general sense, the idea of ideation, or anything involving egregores. Colin Madden, some dunderhead I used to be in a band with just sent Beto $1,000. Should have sent it to me instead. He'd get a better result. Some guy's been stuck with every honk and boost 40-something just had a stroke. So he had a stroke? That would explain why you sent $1,000 to Beto. He accidentally pressed the wrong button when he was at his computer. That's the only explanation. I can't imagine why anyone else would pay the grifter. Stephen Nizak, I understand why everyone has the apple cider out to celebrate Liz Cheney's defeat. Does anyone know that another Liz hopefully loses today? Lisa Murkowski of Alaska faces a major challenger today. The general consensus is Murkowski has a 90% chance of prevailing. While it'd be nice to see her knocked out, she probably remains. Liz Cheney has a 0% chance of winning. To be clear, I'm already calling it for Hageman, and it's 8 o'clock Eastern. I don't even know if the polls are fucking open in Wyoming. By the way, please don't send any more super chats because I do have one more news story to cover, and we are riding up towards the hour. The baby appears to be getting hungry. The Sacred Order of Knightly Valor. What's the date and time of your midterm coverage? TBA. I am not sure yet. Depends on which continent that I'm in. Sparky, passports must be specified in the warrant for seizure. Yeah, well, they would be part of one of the document boxes then, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, Brooklyn Dad Defiant gets a slot here. Apparently he blocked Razorfist, by the way, on Twitter at some point, and he was chuckling about that. And this is actually, to link in the description, this is to one of my tweets, but I was just responding to him. Charles Booker will defeat Rand Paul. Manifest it. So now he's trying to turn to the occult to defeat Rand Paul. He's so crazy about this. And the thing is that Rand Paul will win. I would imagine in that race, I'll give an over-under of a 12-point gap. I think Rand Paul wins by 12 in his re-election bid against Charles Booker. Charles Booker appears to be much more concentrating on making money and setting up to write a book, or pivot around to say, I was an also-ran. I tried to stop Rand Paul. Give me an MSNBC slot. I tried to stop Rand Paul. Give me an investment deal. Something like that. People that get into these political positions, even if they get goddamn slamma-jammed into the middle of nowhere, oftentimes they end up with lucrative deals. Look at Nancy Pelosi. How do you think that she made all of her money? It isn't from being a powerful Democrat. She's been a failure as speaker. She's going to be the first speaker of the House, by the way, to lose her position twice as of the midterms. It's going to be very interesting, and it'll be historic, and it won't get covered on CNN, by the way. Fox will probably not even cover it. Very, very fun times. I'm having a great time, though, today. The big news of the day, other than Trump updates, of course, is Liz Cheney will be losing her job. It's going to be wonderful. It's it's going to be a magical time this evening. I'm going to be rapidly updating things, probably shit posting on Twitter and chuckling at people. There are actually some people who, for some reason, have ignored every single poll and everything else under the sun and believe that Liz Cheney will actually hold on to her job. That's there's going to be one hell of a cope. I mean, it's only like 10 people, but, you know, they seem to be stuck in their ways. So yeah, Brooklyn Dad Defiant, who's basically just a shit poster for the far left on Twitter. He's proclaiming that Charles Booker will actually win in the Kentucky primary against Rand Paul. Yes, you're going to knock off one of the most noteworthy individuals within the Senate with, I believe, one of the higher approvals as far as senators go, in state, of course. Congress has very low approval. For some reason, people actually approve of the people that comprise Congress. It's a little bit of cognitive dissonance, of course. Rand Paul, though, actually does his job. I would say he's on the short list for a potential presidential candidate if Trump doesn't run. Yeah, he's really going to lose his job. What the fuck has he done wrong? Then they were talking about, oh, he delivered a message from Trump to the Kremlin once. What the fuck are you even fucking talking about, dude? These people are nuts. They're not quite sane. Anyway, I think that we've covered all of our super chats, which is great. Yes, MP, Rand Paul for president. If Trump does not run, Rand Paul is the one that I do want. I would definitely vote for him in a heartbeat. I'd do more. I'd be tempted to donate to his fucking campaign, and I've never done that for any other candidate before. If Rand Paul became the nominee, I'd be goddamn tempted. I'd definitely be trying to get a couple of his staffers or something on a live stream. I think it would be a great idea. If Trump does not run, then Rand Paul is at the top of the list. Yes, he, by the way, leapfrogs past DeSantis in that case. By the way, how many people at peak do we have here? Jesus, it's well, Christ, it's close to 7,500 today. We're getting up towards 10,000 live viewers on 2 different platforms, by the way, Clankers, as far as these live streams go. So I'm going to keep them up. Rob P., thoughts on Dan Crenshaw? Dude is a useless sellout. He was briefly cool for having been a veteran with one eye. Has he done anything meaningful? He's basically like John Cornyn. He's just a young, one-eyed version of John Cornyn. That's basically what he's become, which is sad because he could have been more than that. That being said, he's a useful idiot more than Cornyn and similar people. He's better than Romney. He's better than Lindsey Graham or Mitch McConnell. But, I mean, that's not saying much now, is it? Okay, I've got this rotten, smelly, slimy, pea-coated, bee-covered turd over here. And then over here, I have a turd. It's dried up, but it's like I sprinkled cinnamon on it. That's basically the cinnamon turd is Dan Crenshaw. That's the best possible example that I can give for people like that. And there are many of them in the GOP. Just to be clear, just because somebody presents themselves as being America first does not make them actually America first. It just means it's a vague improvement on yesteryear's neocons, and they're desperately trying to hold on to their jobs. The hope is that the fact that they want to keep their job is what keeps them in line. But as we saw with Cornyn and Romney and certain others, that's not always the case. They're willing to cuck once in a while on major constitutional issues. Yeah, I patch McCain. I would say that he's better than McCain, but only vaguely. Like instead of being an F, you get a D minus. Okay, you got a mercy D. Well, it doesn't mean that you're the most skilled student. Usually means you bribed the teacher. So yes, Dan Crenshaw is the Cinnamon Turd Man. The Sacred Order of Knightly Valor, Cinnamon Turd Crunch Cereal. Exactly. All right, I'm going to go off here because we're getting towards an hour 5. And I do have other things. I'm going to be making Indian-style stuffed peppers tonight. It is going to be delicious. But I have to get a couple more peppers because I got too few, actually. Whoops. And I need to get what is it? Oh, yeah, cheese for on top of them. I've got my grocery list, of course. I always make them when I go out. Otherwise, I can't remember what the fuck I'm doing. I swear to God. That's about all.